Hello, today is August 8th, 2016, and I'm very close to actually building the show drive. Now, I've made some modifications to the plan. This will be the approximate curvature of the show drive's coil viewed from the side. As you can see, it looks like an S. This is the drawing I made today, August 8, 2016. Here it is. This will be the side profile of the show drive of its coils. Now I've got here some assembly instructions. This will be modified a little bit. I'll have some presentations and etc. to do before I go about building the show drive. But this is just a summary of the instructions. Now, what will change is that I'll have these acrylic rods that will slide through the crate. These acrylic rods will support an acrylic support structure for the show drive. Now, this is an example of one such acrylic rod. I'm thinking about pre-cutting the acrylic rod before I conduct the video for the show drive. Now, one major upgrade to the show drive is I made the procedure of the build simpler. Although it does involve these acrylic panels that I had pre-laser cuts at a place called Metrics Create Space, and that's a maker space in Seattle. That's Metrics with an X, Create Space. Now, this is an example of one of the things they had laser cut of the acrylic panels, as you can see there. It fits the bearings, so the bearings are now pretty much jammed in there. So, 2 panels. Now, they will be supported by this acrylic rod, and this will be transparent, as this will be transparent. So that will be total transparency. There will be no hidden batteries whatsoever. Alright. This is the crate that I'll be using. As you can see here, there's the crate. It's got this bottom. There's the inside. And another thing I'll have to look at or show you this. Let's see here. Okay, so here's the fan blade set. So I'm going to take out our little fan here. It's a little sharp, so we're going to be careful. I'll go ahead and put this on the side. And so this is the 12-inch diameter fan from Flexilite, as you can see there. 12-inch diameter. And what the configuration will be, I'll have the crate set in such a way that it's like in this direction here. Now, let's set this up. It'll be facing this way, in that direction, inside the crate. Alright, it will be inside the crate, and the acrylic panels will be like so. One of them will sit over here, and another will sit over here. And in between this thing, well, this isn't the geometry. This will be the profile, the general shape of the show drive's coil viewed from the side. It's like a rectangle about this size, folded into an S shape. Okay, so that will be supported by acrylic rods like these, cuts, and then inserted into these sides over here. And there will be also 1/4 inch thick acrylic rods that will sit over here. And to make things simple, I'll be using rubber bands to hold them on the ends. Now I'll be using a lot of rubber bands, but this way I won't have to do any permanent glue. And if somebody wants to inspect what's going on, we'll be able to easily remove the rubber bands from these rods and then to reveal what's inside. No hidden batteries. Now I've simplified the arrangement here. This is just 3 drawers. I had 6 drawers before, but I put the stuff I didn't need for the making of the show drive over there. So down here, I've got my stage 1 things that I have. I've got the rubber bands for the acrylic rods. I've got masking tape to mark the acrylic rod's position before I cut them. I'll be using this thing to cut the acrylic rods. This little saw here, I actually practiced some on, as you can see, the dust on there. I'll be using that saw to cut the acrylic rods in the process. I also got some of my copper coils over here and some other things here. An LC meter to measure the inductance of the coil right after I make it. And I've got some other things in there too. Down here, I've got my permanent magnets. If you can see that, I can push this down. So over here are my permanent magnets down at the bottom. Safety glasses. Here's a rod that actually should be up here. This will be for holding the spools of copper wire while I wind them. Anyway, so here's a magnetic pole detector and other things. All kinds of nice stuff for the assembly of the magnet assembly, which will be horizontally laid. It will be magnetized like you have a sub sandwich, and imagine the North Pole was the top bun, and the South Pole was the bottom bun. And the reason for that is so that I can have the magnetic flux cutting through the sides instead of the ends like in the previous design. So here's the S coil. And you see here, if I have 2 of these, like so, here's the drum. No, that's not it. It's this. Oh, okay, so this. Okay. So here is the S.H.O coil design. And imagine if I had lines of flux coming out of this magnet. It's rectangular, like my hands viewed rectangular, like this, wider than thick. But viewed from this angle, and imagine it's imagine it has a size similar, but where did it go? So anyway, oh, here it is. So the magnet, it's going to be 1.5 inches this way, and 4 inches this way, lengthwise, and it'll be 2 inches thick. And so if I imagine, here's the top side of this. Make sure this is the so there it is, 4 inches. Oh, this is 2 inches. Okay. So viewing from the side, I'll have this magnet, and it has lines of flux going out in many directions. So imagine this is a rectangular prism, 1.5 inches deep, 4 inches this way, and 2 inches this way. And I have the S.H.O coil. Let's say this is in the 12 o'clock position, and here's my S.H.O coil, like so. Now, these lines of flux will actually stick out more sideways than upward, because the way this is going to be magnetized, again, this is like the top bun of the sub sandwich, and will be the bottom bun of the sub sandwich. So this could be your north section, and this is your south, so it'll be magnetized this way. These representing lines of flux coming out of the magnet. They will loop around, as they always do, to the bottom part of the magnet. Okay? And so what a lot of them will do, because it is longer this way than it is deep, so it's 4 inches this way and 1.5 inches that way. Okay? So that means that most of the lines of flux will come out this way, out of the page, so to speak, sticking out like this, or going the other way. So they go out like this, lines of flux coming out like this, and they'll be rotating inside through this section here. Okay? And there'll be lines of flux coming out like over here as well, over the sides, and they will miss the coil because it will be shaped like an O over here, an O shape. So some of the lines of flux will come out the magnet and then curl back around without crossing whatever member is across here, because it'll be an S over on this side, and then a cross, then another S. But there will be some lines of flux that will cut through here, but those will be in the minority. As a result, most of the lines of flux cutting through here means that the opposing magnetic field, which opposes the rotation of the magnet, will be in this region here, in this center. But there'll be the top and the bottom sections as well. And the way I have changed this geometry is that these fields up here will be dominant. They will be in opposition to the field in the middle. But because this is like imagine if I had a sheet of paper and I had folded it. Okay? So we got 3 areas. Actually, they're part of one contiguous area, but 3 separate areas: upper, middle, and lower. Now here's your upper area, and then your middle, and then your lower area. So imagine that folded piece of paper going around that S. Well, the lines of flux from the magnet will be sticking out. A lot of them will be going out through the middle area, but never ever touching the upper and lower areas. So they will be flipping and cutting through at the sides. Those lines of flux will cut through the sides, like there. If we imagine rotating it. But I can probably do that better with my hand. So here's the lines of flux coming out of the North Pole, rotating around to the other side, going back up again to the top. You can do that. My hand's not an owl's head, so it's kind of hard to get around here. So up here, then down there, up there, down there, going around inside of this. Now I have another drawer. This is where my meters and everything will be. Now this is a disc that I got from a CD stack case, and I put some sandpaper, fine grained sandpaper, to make this translucent. And what this will do is when I use the tachometer, this is a laser tachometer, when I shine it on there, it won't reflect back to the tachometer in any focused way. And so what that would do is allow me to put a little tape here, reflective tape, that this kit includes. It's these strips in the middle. And this, what this means is that I can put this, say, over here, in the back side of the crate on the shaft. It'll be on the shaft, and there will be the acrylic panel and bearing inside that panel. And speaking of these panels, where did I put it? Oh, there it is. So these panels will have 4 extra holes in them. And I will have these hooks with a little bonding tape without the wrapper removed. And I'll just stick it in there. Really easy. All right, so this will be clear. I'll have this thing peeled off. As you can see, there's a little preview of how clear that would be. This part's a little bit distorted from the heat of the laser cutting, but that's fine. Most of the pane will look really nice. And there's the bearing from VXB at Amazon.com. All right, so we'll have a really nice looking S.H.O drive. Now, why should it work? Now, people talk about magnets, you know, whether they think they have energy or not, or whether they can do work or not. And here's how I would like to divide different kinds of energy concepts in a magnet. There is the concept of, well, first of all, just the fact that a magnet can have motion relative to an observer means it can have something I call bulk kinetic energy. And that's like you take the object itself, the magnet, okay? Let's say this was the magnet, and you move it through space. Well, there has a bulk kinetic energy based upon 1/2 times the mass times the velocity of that translation, okay? It obviously has energy, okay? Now, inside a magnet, there can also be these things called atomic spins. You can imagine this little green cap here is an atomic object inside the box spinning at incredibly high velocities. But it's in there, and as long as it's in that box, I mean, I can't really take advantage of that kinetic energy inside the magnet. It's spinning like this. Try to grab this. I mean, how can I take advantage of that spin? It doesn't make sense. But what if I could? Now, I would argue that we actually do use that energy on a regular basis, but we tend to fill it up again, resulting in we're not actually using it in net amount. So let's say, for example, I had a magnet inside a coil, just an ordinary generator. So when I rotate the magnet through the coil, there's a current that's induced at right angles to the movement of the flux lines through the coil. So keep in mind, that means the electrons will accelerate at right angles to the magnetic fields based upon the relative motion to those magnetic field lines. But that's at right angles. So in a way that is at also right angles to the motion of the field lines. So if I take a magnet and it slows down, let's say here's the magnet, right? It's rotating this way around like so. And then there's electrons accelerating this direction, that direction, this way. Now, this thing will slow down on an axis in this direction. It's a rotation. Now, it doesn't make sense to me that the bulk kinetic energy of this magnet would be opposed by something accelerating at right angles to that. So what it means is actually the thing spinning inside the magnet is the thing slowing down, delivering some of its energy to the electron in the wire. Then it makes sense, because then we can see it would slow down. As we apply a force from this side, this could slow down as the electron in the wire would speed up. But then, in order for that to have happened, this thing had to move already. This thing already had to have bulk kinetic energy for that to happen. For this thing to move down relative to this object, this electron in this wire, this thing already had to move. I already had to give it some kinetic energy, whether from a waterfall or some battery powering some motor, causing this magnet to spin, or whatever. I already gave it kinetic energy for that to even be possible, for that even to induce a change of energy from this magnet to this electron. Now keep in mind, it's from the energy in the spins that's actually going to the electron. Bulk kinetic energy is no way contributing to that because, again, its associated momentum is in this direction, whereas the momentum of the current is at right angles. So, but the momentum inside the spin inside the magnet is spinning it like that. Part of that momentum is in fact lateral. It's in the right angles to the magnetic field lines. So what does that mean? Well, it means the energy from the spin that gets transferred to the electrons, the spins are reduced. But the electrons in the wire generate magnetic fields that act against the rotation of the magnet. So if they act against the rotation of the magnet, they're creating magnetic fields that act upon charges inside the magnet, the spinning, orbiting charges inside the magnet. And so the bulk kinetic energy which is composed of the bulk motion of numerous electrons and protons. Somehow the electrons are subject to Lorentz forces that are different than their protons because, one, they're opposite charges, and two, their velocities are different than those of the protons. So they're deflected in such a manner that the bulk kinetic energy of those electrons is now transferred into the spin, refilling the spin of the atomic currents that we had extracted energy from. So the energy we had put into setting the magnet into motion, this bulk kinetic energy, has now become folded back into the atoms from which we extracted energy initially as we passed current through the conductor. And that's a mouthful. Now, it only takes one change to significantly change this situation. And that situation is, instead of passing energy to the magnet to give it this kinetic energy, to supply it continuously on and on and on, so that this energy, this bulk kinetic energy that I gave it, is then folded into the atomic current kinetic energy that I had extracted from the generator process. Let's say we just give it a push, so now it's moving. And so it's transferring some of that atomic kinetic energy to the coil. But now what the coil does, it generates forces on the translating object, the magnet that's under rotation. And then those Lorentz forces will actually deflect further amounts, additional amounts of atomic kinetic energy into the bulk kinetic energy, accelerating the magnet. Now, normally you would have an electric motor. You would pass current through a wire, and that current would acquire that energy you put into it from your battery or from your external generator or whatever. So some of that energy would be transduced into the orbital kinetic energy of the magnet, conserving momentum and energy. And so then the magnetic fields generated by this current that you had created will also then deflect the kinetic energies you just have put in to the magnet, thus turning that additional orbital kinetic energy into bulk kinetic energy of the rotating magnet. So that isn't a motor, but if I don't need the battery, if I just need to push it, and I generate fields that deflect the kinetic energies that are inside the magnet, the spin kinetic energies, the orbital kinetic energies, all of a sudden, it's a new energy source for humankind. You know, we don't have to pollute the planet, and we don't have to do chemical interactions in order to supply our basic primary need of energy. And energy is essentially the wealth of nations and the wealth of people and the wealth of all life on Earth. Without energy, there is no work done. There's no economy. There's no nothing. Absolutely nothing. It does not even matter if you don't have energy. Because in all matter, there is energy. In all matter, there is an energy source. And essentially, energy is the money of nature. So if you want to like fix the economy, well, fundamentally, that is simply fixing our relationship to energy and the resources that energy allows us to handle. And of course, it's not just the quantity, but the quality by which we do these things. Now, I know there's Brilliant Light Power, they're a company. They're based on classical physics, and basically they're going to reformulate the atom, and then some. They have a new energy source. It's going to be many times more powerful than the S.H.O drive. But I believe the S.H.O drive will appeal to those looking for a simple replication for evidence for a new phenomena in physics. Also one that doesn't require chemical reactions. So another alternative for people. But the recent advances in their hydrino technology are so far ahead of what I'm doing. I mean, can I replicate it? I mean, sure, if I had enough money. It's a very difficult process. I mean, you can imagine how much the equipment costs. I mean, I can even go on, say, Alibaba.com and look up the cost of, say, a X-ray spectrometer that they have in their papers. And those aren't cheap. You can also look up escalators and elevators on Alibaba.com and see how much those cost, if you're into that kind of, fantasy shopping where you imagine you had all this money and you can buy this stuff. Which I do sometimes, but, alright, so periodically I have this journal, as well as others, where I write into to update on various aspects of the plans, of the construction of the S.H.O drive. And ultimately, today's August 8th, of course, ultimately we'll just see if the S.H.O drive works. Now, I am 100% sure that Brilliant Light Power's technology will succeed. Now it's timing. I can present the S.H.O drive, and if the S.H.O drive works, I might present it this year to the public. I might get a lot of publicity for it. I might have a lot of criticism. I haven't been sure if I'm ready for that. But I do know Black Light Power will next year have a lot of this commercialization going on. And it will be big enough as it is. I am not sure if I should show the S.H.O drive this year, or maybe I could put it off. But I think in the end, I will show it at least to my family. And I'll get some of this built. I'll have the videos recorded. I'll have them uploaded to YouTube. Worst case scenario, I'll hide the YouTube channel and reveal it a couple years later when I think it's appropriate. Or I could just go ahead and put it out there now, and or in a couple months or weeks. And so if it works, it will be tremendous, to use that word. This is the old S.H.O drive presentation. Spent about $60 making this, a couple of months making it. This will still have some good material that I will use for developing the S.H.O drive and also the test procedure. A lot of pages. Okay. Just a couple more things here. This is the profile for the shaft, and this will be the magnet assembly, a top view. Okay, this would be at 1.5 inches this way and 4 inches that way, with 3 nuts in the middle, slightly thicker than these squares. And this is the magnet assembly procedure. I'll have these numbered. I forgot the number of these, but this will indicate eventually what's the order that you put these magnets in to assemble them. All right. Oh, and the trail camera. Can't forget the trail camera. This will be used to automatically shoot 12 megapixel pictures while I am building the S.H.O drive. Now, it will take a couple hours to build the show drive, and I will have some things pre-done. I might have the acrylic rods pre-cut, so that I can cram the construction of the show drive down to maybe about 3 to 5 hours. And in the same video, because I will have this camera, which can record many hours of video, I'll be able to record the whole process and the test run, the initial test run of the show drive. Now, I built many electric motors in the past, and I used to have to fiddle around with the shaft that I had supported on this really jerry-rigged setup, with the shaft sitting on bearings, sitting on plastic battery holders, sitting on top of ribbon cables that are strapped around with cable ties. I'm not going to do that. I mean, this is going to be a lot better. This is not going to be engineering commercial grade, because again, I'll be using acrylic rods for transparency. The acrylic rods again will support the show drive. This will be the fan area back here, acrylic plate here, the magnets rotating here in between the show coils, and then over here another plate, and then over here, back here, I'll have this disc with the reflective tape on it, so I can measure the RPM of this device really accurately. Okay, and being that it's summer, in fact it's Olympic season, so I might make a goal, say, hey, I'm gonna get this project done before the Olympics are over. I don't know exactly when that should be, when I should finish it, and when I should show it. Of course, I'll show it to my family first, but publicly, it's going to be another thing. All right. So again, there's this website called S.H.O.wiki, and that's not .com, that's not .net, that's .wiki, and that is a place you can go to learn more about the show drive. Now, I have to update it eventually some more, in order for this all to, match what my future videos will hold. Okay, so okay, what are we doing here? S.H.O.wiki, and I probably will have another site as well eventually. Let's see. Not yet. That would be Amazon. So on my Windows phone, this thing will still show up on the side, but here it is. S.H.O.wiki is all about the show drive, a new type of electric motor. My hands are so dry. Okay. Facebook URL, YouTube URL. What is the show about? This will be the first drive motor in the world to have a coil that looks like an S, an H, or an O, depending on which side you look from. What does SHO stand for? S.H.O. stands for side hung over. Not super high output. That would be the Ford's SHO engine. So what is this good for? The best way to know is to build one yourself and show it. Well, I have to still further define that specifically. How do I make it? Details can be found at the Replication Station. And I got some recent videos, but I haven't posted any videos last month because I've been busy with things. But finally, I think I've got everything I need, basically, to build the show drive. I hope this will work. If it doesn't, well then I'll just suck my losses, and I'll do everything I can to help support Brilliant Light Power. Because, I know theirs is going to work. That's not a question for me. I've known about them for over 10 years. Researched about them for about that time. So I know theirs will work. I know they're contrary to modern physics. Modern's like the epitome of knowledge, I guess. But, ultimately, there's other stuff out there in the universe. I'm not convinced that the universe is finite, like Randall Mills says. But, I'm sure it makes sense for him to describe only that because we don't see infinity. Infinity's, hard to, fathom. I think the universe is a fractal and follows some kind of higher order symmetry principle. It's, it's going to be a while before we can demonstrate that. There's other stuff too. I mean, what's infinitely small? I mean, what's, in this infinitely small, infinitely large? Big, possibilities there. I think the show drive will indicate that there is something unknown to both the standard model of physics as well as black light powers, brilliant light powers, approach the things. Now, theirs is far more parsimonious. I will study theirs, as I will study the regular quantum mechanics, portioning time based upon what is most fruitful for my particular objective I happen to have at the time. Yeah. So this will be great if it works. If not, I'll just, support somebody else. As the old saying goes, lead, follow, or get out of the way. So here's the hoping that I can lead. If not, I'll just follow. All right? I want to thank you for your time. Today is August 8th, 2016. I wish to welcome you a wonderful day. There's the button.